Caleb Williams or Drake May,
They
but they're too
should.
good. They're too good. I guess to tank to a certain extent. They'll be 7-10, and Rivera will be fired at season's end. I
Yeah.
apologize, Parnell. For Dallas, here's why I put them winning the division. Simply put, we haven't had a back-to-back NFC East champ in 2
In a
decades.
while.
I have no reason, and it's unbelievable. So I have no reason to believe that'll change today. Philly's roster is listen, they did a good job in the draft adding some talent. They added, our guy Parnell called them the Philadelphia Bulldogs with adding Jalen Carter and Kaylee Ringo, just really going hard after those
N'Kobe
Bulldogs in the
Dean.
draft. What's that?
N'Kobe Dean. They
Nakobe
added a
Dean
bunch of
from a
Georgia
year
players.
ago. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
And so I think this is to answer another question Parnell had earlier in the show. He says, which quarterback is most pressured in the NFC East? As a big Dak fan, it's Dak Prescott. You have obviously a new offensive coordinator. It's sort of de facto in Mike McCarthy calling plays. They upgraded at wide receiver, adding Brandon Cooks. Michael Gallup's healthier. CeeDee Lamb's proven he can be a number one guy. The only concern, again, I think Dallas's defense could be one of the 3 best in the NFL. They got better. They added Stephon Gilmore as their number 2. Micah Parsons, we understand that he's probably one of the 10 best players in the National Football League, and Trayvon Diggs has only improved as far as being a cover corner. And so I think Dallas' defense is excellent. I think their offense has plenty of playmakers. The only question I have, and I don't think enough people give this attention, is the Cowboys' offensive line, which last year was bottom 4 in the NFL in pass block win rate. If Dak is going to be able to get the ball to these guys, the offensive line is going to give him time. And obviously, we know Dak's got to clean up the turnovers. I believe he will turnover. He's never been a high interception guy. I think that's why last year caught a lot of us off guard. So I'll have Dallas win the division. Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts is not going to allow the Super Bowl hangover, regardless how far they go in the playoffs. That's too good of a football team. It's too good of a quarterback, and I think Philadelphia is right back in. I almost put the Giants in. I've got them at 8-9. Only concerns for me is Daniel Jones. I think Jalen Hyatt, by the way, out of Tennessee, is going to have a big year for him. But I question Daniel Jones and whether or not he can back-to-back years. I mean, last year was supposedly a big year for Daniel Jones. He threw 15 touchdown passes. So I think he's overrated to an extent. The contract was a bit over the top for him.
Inflated,
a guy of his caliber. So I got the Giants finishing 3rd and Washington finishing at 7-10. Ryan, you're a Cowboys fan. So what's your thoughts on my picks here?
I listen, everyone that knows me or follows me or the guys in the Grid Network, I'm not a Cowboys homer. So I like to keep it real. But in this particular case, it's not gonna seem like I'm being subjective or objective, but I agree with this. 1 through 4, I think is spot on. You mentioned you have some really good points about the Eagles. When you replace your offense and defensive coordinator from a year ago, that's tough. Along with 8 or 9 starters on your defense. That will come in at some point. They're talented enough to win some games still. The Eagles are not a trash team. So, but I think they will take a step back. The Cowboys are primed. And I'm not going to say they're going to go to the Super Bowl, but they have what it takes on paper to get the job done, especially with that defense backing them. And, like you said, the biggest problem with the Cowboys is the whole offensive line thing. I did not like the Mozzie Smith pick during the draft. I really felt like we would have been better suited taking an offensive lineman. I get the need because they needed a defensive tackle, a big guy, but I don't know if Mozzie's that guy. I really don't think he is. So I would rather just kind of get an offensive lineman because literally if Tyron Smith is not playing a full season. I think we know that. There's 3 things that are going to happen every day or three things are going to happen. The sun will rise, sun will set, and Tyron Smith is going to get hurt. He's not going to play a full season. So who steps in for him? We don't know. We don't have
Smith's dealing with an injury I saw, by the way.
See, there you go. The other Smith is hurt, right? So it's only a matter of time before Tyron gets hurt. And I love him. He's a first ballot Hall of Fame out of USC. The guy has been phenomenal left tackle throughout his career, but injuries have really hampered his seasons the last 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
So that's a big problem. The whole Tony Pollard thing too. We franchise tagged him. He's coming off a big injury. I wasn't a fan of Deuce Vaughn, but it seems like he did make the team. So good for him. I
like
think
Deuce more than you do, though. I think Deuce can be an impact player.
You know what? Watching him in the preseason, I think there's an opportunity for him to play in the National Football League. I think if they use him accordingly, he can do some things, right? But the rest of the running back room is kind of like, I don't know. Those guys are borderline UPS drivers, XFL players, I think, in my opinion. And no offense to UPS drivers, that they deliver my packages. But anyway, the Giants, listen, Saquon Barkley's gonna get hurt. He evaded it last year a little bit, but the guy has not really played back-to-back seasons without being injured. So it's only a matter of time. And like you said, Daniel Jones's contract was just. I get why they had to do it because who else are you going to bring in there?
Sure.
Finding a quarterback in the National Football League is not something you can just go out and just say, "Oh, let's go get a quarterback." And although Daniel Jones isn't like that premier guy, who else out there is better than him that they could have gotten really
It's
realistically?
all about
So,
options in life. Yeah.
right, could they have made a play for Lamar Jackson way back when he was, playing the field? Maybe, I don't know. I mean, if that was even an option, right? But I know his ransom was very high. So they decided, we'll just pay Daniel Jones and we'll see what happens. And then the Commanders, they're surprised. They could be a sleeper team only because they got talent. Like, I'm not
They
going to
do.
deny them.
They
They
do.
got talent. I think on their defensive line, their front seven has always been pretty good. Like they get after it, right? And the receiving core isn't that bad either. We forget about what's the guy's name? McLaren because
Terry McLaurin, yeah.
he doesn't have no one really throwing to him like that. And he's still been able to be very effective and efficient without having like an alpha dog quarterback back there. Now, Sam Howell will be the guy for now, but do we really think Sam Howell is going to be the next big thing? Probably not. I mean, if you go down the list of quarterbacks they've had in the last couple of years, I mean, it's been rough for them,
A lot
and
of
they've
Jags,
always been
a lot of guys. Yeah.
a lot of guys have been in that jersey. So if they can figure it out on offense, hopefully Eric Bieniemy, he's going to get his chance now to call the plays on his own and won't have any type of Andy Reid influence in there. We'll see if he is that great play caller that we think he is, and will he be next in line to get that coaching position, which I think he will. But I think he'll be the next coach of the Commanders for sure, unless the Washington Commanders somehow win the division and win a playoff game, which that's not going to happen. So unfortunately, sorry Parnell, but it's just not going to happen. You guys are already not in the playoffs, and we haven't played one snap yet in the regular season. So, but other than that, I agree with the order here. Dallas 1, Eagles 2, Giants 3, and Commanders 4.
I'm glad you mentioned the part about Washington in a crazy world winning the NFC East. I just want to go ahead and put that message. Washington is in the NFC East. In case Ron Rivera forgot that, they are in the NFC East. I know he forgot that they were out of the playoffs last year and said Sam Howell was if I knew Sam Howell was this good, I'd start him last year. It's like well, he was in the building, coach. I mean I don't know I don't know how you missed that. That was bad. So but I agree with you overall. We have some comments here. Devin says Eagles, Cowboys, Giants, Commanders. So same orders last year. Again, that's perfectly within the realm of possibility. I think Dallas and Philly will split as they tend to do. And Dallas will get the edge.
They'll both steal a home game. They'll both they'll both win their home games for sure.
I agree. And Patrick says, Cowboys bugaboo is San Francisco. You can say that again. Week 6, I think it's actually going to be in week 5. In Santa Clara will be must-see TV, then go on to play the Chargers before the bye week. Yeah, the Chargers is a game that I'm really, listen, I may not be a Cowboys fan, but listen, I'm pulling for them to win that just to get the victory over Kellen Moore. I'm pulling for my man Dak. They were blaming him and giving Kellen the credit. That made me upset. Darian says, the problem with the Cowboys is not the regular season, it's can they win the playoffs? Well, the answer to that question, Darian, for the last nearly 3 decades has been a resounding no. The failure obviously get to the NFC Championship game, and again, I've said a couple of weeks ago, and it may sound cheesy, it may sound corny, but there's some odd vibes in Dallas. There's an odd feel in that it's almost like a cautious optimism, but it's like if you get that feel about Jerry, like heads are going to roll if they don't at least get to the NFC Championship game.
Right.
I don't feel like this is a situation where it's just kind of the same old Cowboys season. I nicknamed it the Yoda season. If you remember from The Empire Strikes Back when Yoda said "do or do not," it's kind of like the
no, you're right.
It's a huge season for Dallas. And Devin says only way Cowboys win the division is if Dak is the best quarterback in the division. Listen, he's capable of doing that. Again, I'm higher on Hurts.
Right.
I'm higher on Hurts today. Dak is undefeated against Hurts. Dak's, I think he's 27-7 against the NFC East, so he's kind of owned that division. So I will give the Cowboys the division title. And another Cowboys fan in here, my man Philip, says, "How about them Cowboys?"
Philly cheese, I like that name.
Philly cheese, yeah. Listen, good dude. I love Philip. Going to the NFC South.
Real quick before you move on to the NFC East, the whole Trey Lance thing. I haven't really had a chance to talk about this.
Okay.
Trey Lance is not going to play a snap next season. Okay, no. To me, that move was just like a leverage move for Jerry, to show Dak like, hey, well, you don't want to accept our terms. We have a young guy in the waiting arms here, and we'll keep Cooper Rush here. We'll see. So Trey, everyone was like, oh my God, the internet blew up when it's like it really wasn't that big of a deal because Trey Lance is not going to play at all next season. So I just wanted to say that. So sorry.
I appreciate you saying that. And, when there was this whole narrative that, he's, the Cowboys don't believe in Dak as a long-term guy. That's like, okay, and I guess Buffalo, Baltimore, and Detroit doesn't believe in their guy either because they were all in the mix to go get Trey Lance. Dallas just gave San Francisco the best package. So appreciate you for sticking up for Rain Dakota Prescott as always. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.